Oh, it already started. All right, hello. I have a topic in mind that is apropos of nothing, and I think it applies to art, but I don't really know how yet. Um, and the topic is the holographic principle of encoding as differentiated from linear encoding. So, what does that mean? That's very mathy. And it's mathy, logicy stuff. And the idea is there's when you encode information in a substrate. So, a substrate could be, a CD, it could be DNA, it could be any anything that a book, letters on a page. That's encoding. You put information in a physical system, and out comes the information you put in, depending on if you have the right reading system. The same system that reads DNA and reads a CD, it might not come out with the same results, even if you encode the same data there. Um, so the holographic principle is the idea that each unit, component, whatever, where you save data, um, you have a kind of low resolution idea of the whole picture, as opposed to linear encoding, which is, let's say you have, like binary strings. If you mess up one bit in that string, it might throw the whole thing off. Where um, uh, in the holographic idea, if you cut a hologram, if you have a hologram, like the classic thing you think of, that's the weird kind of spooky imagery, that's usually green because lasers or something. I'm not exactly sure. Um, if you have one of those and you cut it in half physically, you don't, the image that results isn't half of the image like you would in a photograph. Um, you get the same image but at half resolution because the information is distributed across various parts of the system as opposed to information about one part of the output being encoded in one part of the substrate. So, yeah, that's a fun bit of technical adventure. And I mean, I am a mathy person. But I'm not expert on holography. I don't. In some ways, I'm an expert on data encoding, but like working with databases, not data. Information theory. I'm not an information theorist. Um, so yeah, the idea there is, I think the difference between these two might have important implications for types of art. Um, and I think maybe an example of that is the sitcom, where if something is very episodic, I kind of think of it as being more holographic in its encoding of whatever information in there is about the art in the art, about the world, I suppose, because the canon of art has, it implies some world that it's world building. Where if you watch, something episodic, it doesn't. You can watch it in different order, and you still kind of get the same world picture of the world of the canon that you would if you had watched different episodes or in a different order. But that's not true of, you know, non episodic art. So if you watch scenes in a film, every scene kind of assumes that you're seeing each other scene and seeing them in the appropriate order. Um, yeah, so that would be a linear encoding, or perhaps even a show that is episodic. A single episode um, might not have that same holographic principle of, you can cut out half of them and you just lose half the fidelity. You don't lose a chunk of the world. Um, yeah. So I haven't really heard this discussed in the terms of data encoding. And I feel like bringing it into that avenue has some potential interest or use. Not quite sure what that is, but I think it kind of comes down to my last video about when I was talking about art for ignoring. You see, now I'm referencing a previous video, so maybe this is relevant. Um, uh, where kind of background art, where you don't have to be fully engaged with it to understand and contextualize parts of it. Because I feel like in a lot of art that grabs your attention, uh, it needs to if it's building up towards a climax, you need the context for that climax. Or do you? I suppose there can be climaxes that you don't necessarily have to see what led to it to get that it is meaningful. But who knows? It's yeah. Um, so yeah, there's just some thoughts about um, art and different data encoding principles and how they might mingle. I don't know. Oh, and the visual you're getting here, again, it is the shores of Galway, video taken in probably January or February of 2020. I was on a European vacation, started in Ireland, ended in Athens. From at the beginning of 2020, I was in Athens when COVID shut everything down and had to surprise flee back to the United States because, well, I guess I didn't have to. Well, I guess I did have to because my visa didn't. Everything's confusing. Yeah. The yeah. So this was technically not the first stop of my trip. It was the second stop because the first stop was Dublin, but country-wise, first stop of my trip. Like Galway, it's or Galway. I think it's two syllables. Um, Really lovely, really friendly people. Had a delightful time. So, yeah, here's there you go. Some talks about holographic art, data, something or other. Not quite sure where I'm leading with that, but I feel like I'm leading somewhere. Not sure where yet. All right, enjoy.